Today, we're using these steps to get you your best mix yet in Logic Pro, or at least start you off correctly.
Louis back on my back, feeling better than I ever have. Newly so low, and now
I've finally been able to generate thousands of streams for myself and some of my clients, but I noticed that it wasn't until I started doing this. In this video, you're going to learn the exact project setup that you can use in your next mix, how to save that project setup as a template, and some mistakes you can avoid making whenever you're setting up your next professional mix, all right here in Logic Pro. Okay, let's open up Logic and get this thing started. Okay, so we're gonna make a new project. For the sake of this, we'll go ahead and make like 10 tracks. Okay, I don't have any stems that we're going to use today. I just didn't pick any for this specific video, but I don't really need to since we're just setting up the project. I want to give you guys an idea. If you'd like to see it with the stems, let me know. I can definitely do a video where we do this with an actual song, but just to give you this, I want to show you the correct way. This is what you should be doing before you get to mixing any of your projects. So ideally, you'd bring in your stems now, or you can do this prior to your stems if you're a crazy person like me, especially if you want to just create the template for yourself to use for later. What I do, step one, is going to be label and color. We have 10 tracks. Let's say ideally these are your stems, right? So we're just going to go ahead and label these. This is my lead. Oh, sorry, just another thing for me. With my tracks, I go ahead and I always label in lowercase. So you're gonna be labeling your tracks, okay? So here we are, lead vocal. Then let's say we have a verse here and then hook, right? Then we've got a background vocal, another background vocal, maybe like an ad-lib track, okay? Or harmony. A choir track. Just make be a little diverse. Then for some instruments, let's say we've got a pad here. Then we've got an 808. Then we have, let's do a kick. And then I want a snare. Command D, duplicate that if you need. And we'll add a hi-hat, duplicate that, and make it the open hat too. Okay, so now we've got all these different elements. I do have 2 snares. So I guess we need another instrument. Actually, I think I want to clap when you're an artist. So we have all our tracks labeled. Now we're going to color them. If you hit Option C on your keyboard, that'll bring up your color palette here. And it actually took me a while to find this feature in Logic, but when I did, I went nuts on it. I love the colors, especially neon, as you could probably tell from my aesthetic. So I highlight all my tracks by clicking one, holding down Shift and clicking another. Assign track color if you didn't already hit this, but you should always do that though, because otherwise it will color the track, like the stem track, but it won't color the track. You want your track colored. So I always, even with the box pulled up, I right click the track and I assign track color so it knows that I'm doing that. And the way that you know what it's coloring, the color of what you're coloring should be highlighted. So my lead vocals are going to be, I usually do like a neon green color for these, maybe like that one. And then we'll do backgrounds, choir. I actually usually do separate my choir vocals. Actually, for this purpose, I'll do that still. We'll keep my background vocals. I do a neon pink. Yeah, that's fine. The choir vocal will make this a yellow color. Then I have a pad. I usually do my pads like a baby blue. My bass, I usually make a deep purple. And then all of my drum elements, I usually make a red color. Shout out to Know How. Okay, now you've got all your tracks colored, right? What you're gonna wanna do here, if you hit Command 2 on your keyboard, that should bring up your mixer. You can also hit the letter X in your main window. That'll do the same thing if you're not wanting to have a separate window, but for this thing, I just like having it separately so I can move it around and maneuver it, but we also don't have any tracks on this main thing, so this helps you see it loud and clear. So what I'm gonna do here, we are basically gonna make a bus for every single track, okay? I'm sorry, not every track, for every single color you see. This is gonna be step 2, pre-routing. You're gonna be pre-routing your inputs, your buses, and your, I'm forgetting. We're gonna be pre-routing our inputs, our buses, and our VCAs, okay? So actually, I do my buses first, but just so I don't forget, we'll actually start with your VCAs because those are the easiest to do. First, what a VCA stands for voltage controlled amplifier. I didn't know that prior to this video. I will be dead honest with you, but I've always remembered it as volume control. VC in my mind stands for volume control. So what I mean by that is all of these faders here are typically what we and most beginner mixers use for their volume controls, but these are actually signal faders. It's tricky when you start to affect or put effects and stuff on it. Like for example, have you ever put a ton of effects on your track, maybe a reverb and some delay, but then when you put it down your signal fader, you can still hear the effects almost loud and clear, but just not as detailed and a little choppily? Well, that's because you're adjusting the signal of that original sound as opposed to the volume of it. So let's show you what I mean. What we're going to do is make two different, well, you can actually do as many as you like. I typically do, especially for quick mixes, just two. I highlight all of my vocals, no matter if they're lead, backgrounds, or other. And if you go to your options here and you hit create new VCA for selected channel strips, that'll bring up a new section in your mixer where you'll see VCA1, and then it makes a new bus a new channel strip right after your master fader. Okay, so then I highlight all of my instruments and I do the same thing. Okay, now you could very much so do this same thing for each color, the same way we're about to do for the buses, where you have a VCA for your drums, your bass, your pads, backgrounds, leads. But I just find that to be a little bit overkill, and when I did try to do it, I was in the beginning stages of learning how to do this, so it was a bit harder for me to kind of keep up with my everything. But you can very much so do that. I encourage all kinds of branching out and expansion of any sort. So please. Now, what I do here, I label my buses and my VCAs in all caps. So that way I know what's a bus and what's not. For example, this would be either the artist's name, and tab for the next one, this would be beat. And just like that, I know that I have the volume of my artist vocals all controlled in one. So this is very helpful, and mainly for whenever we are at the end of our mix and everything's perfect, but we want to turn something down, but you don't want to mess with the amount of effects and how loud everything is. You just want it to be quieter, specifically quieter, or you just want to raise it up a little bit if you've done a quieter mix. Here, we can actually affect just the volume of those things here. Now, of course, you can do that with your master fader here, but this is obviously for everything. So this just does it for my instrumental and my vocals. So what we do now, if we go to our tracks here, we can start making buses for them. And like I said, we're going to do a bus for each individual color, not track, color. So we have one yellow track, which is the choir. That's going to be bus 1. We've got 3, we're gonna put in bus 2, 2 pink ones for bus 3, a baby blue for bus 4, a purple for bus 5, and then we've got like 5 red tracks for bus 6. Now, you're probably thinking, what the hell? Why all this, right? I promise it's gonna make a ton of sense and it'll be so much easier for you in the end. What we're going to do now, all of these are basically controlling your individual sections here. So that way you can now see, like through the colors visually, what you are controlling, but it's matched up with an individual bus. So you can add effects and volume changes to that specific thing right there. Now, we're going to label these as well and color them, which brings me to step 3, label and color again. This was our choir vocals. So in all caps, I put choir. This is our lead vox, so I can just put lead vox. These are our background vocals. This was our pads. I usually just call it pads plus because it's more than just your pads, right? All kinds of melodic elements, bass, and then drums. Then if you hit option C again, that brings up our color palette. You don't have to right click for these in your mixer. You can just hit them and it'll color them. Lead vocals were the neon green, right? Yep. And then background vocals were the pink, pads, the baby blue, bass, the deep purple, and drums are always red. Now that we've done all this, we're going to go to step 4, which is post routing. Post routing is basically when you route your outputs, your effects, and your sends. So we have all of this set up. Everything looks nice. Oh, excuse me. We didn't even finish coloring. Command C. We'll make this the artist's favorite color, which mine is neon green. And then the beat, make it red for the instrumental. Okay, if you don't want this to look like a mess and you want better control and you want to also be able to affect different parts of your mix so you can get a more dynamic mix, you would do this. This is all of our vocals, right? If you make a bus out of these 3 buses, you can control just these 3 elements, and same with your instrumental. Now, before we do the instrumental, I like to keep all my vocals the same, and I don't always do this. You don't have to do this one, but I like to make an extra bus for my vocals in case there's like an extra effect or I get really artsy with the amount of work I want to do, right? Or maybe there's just some extra work that needs to be done in the quality of the mix. So what we're going to do, all of those 3, we sent to bus 7. Bus 7 is now going to be our artist vocal mix. So the artist name usually is like the vocal mix for me. So if it said Robin here, that's all of my vocals. That would tell me that. If it said Hey Lizzie XMO, that's Lizzie's vocals. If it said Solid SOW, that's all of Solid SOW's vocals. So all that, we're going to route that to bus 8. Bus 8 is going to be what I call an all Vox. All Vox is basically the room for extra effects. It just lets me know that it's all of my vocals. So whatever I am putting on here will affect everything underneath that as well. So that is important to keep in mind as you are routing all of this stuff, okay? We're not gonna get into this one, but I also go in and I just make these all stereo immediately because I don't like any buses to not be stereo if it's a stereo signal, but that's just me. I'll explain all that later. We can go in depth. Do comment below and I can definitely do a video on that. Now, after we do that, we'll label these some more because we like to see colors. My favorite color, so we can just keep it the same as the lead vocal, and then the all Vox I put as an orange color. And then from there, now we go to all the instrumentals and we make the bus for the instrumental, which in this case is 9. And I label this INST period. Color that red, call it today. And now I take my all Vox and my instrumental, and the final bus that we make is what I would call a pre-master. This is the final bus that we make in terms of surface level mix. I do go a bit above and beyond trying to make sure that everything sits well. And I know I have a set style and way of doing things, so I'm gonna go ahead and add the extra buses that I know I'm going to need if I were going to set this up like a real project, and I'll speed that up for you. I can definitely do a video where I go in depth on that more when we're mixing this, using this template to mix a song, but for now, just watch me go and I'll explain more after. Okay, so now that I'm done with that, you can see that I pretty much just went ahead and added my synths and my buses for my parallel compression, my doubler, reverb, and it says P delay, but that's just delay. It stands for pedal delay. So yes, I also did bring these down. I can explain why in a different video, but yes. So this is basically the setup that I use. Once all of my, all this is done and my stems are all here, I can literally go and control any individual portion or mute any individual portion or section of my song and have volumetric control easily, effect control easily. I can dial in reverbs more or less. I can do a lot of different things. It's very, 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 very beneficial. And if you are not doing this, I definitely recommend starting off your project like this. I know it looks like a lot, but once you get the hang of doing this, you can literally mix anything, I'm telling you. So don't take my word for it. Go ahead and see for yourself. Logic has a ton of features that you can definitely explore and make this your own, make this better. This is just what I do. And of course, like I said, I don't always do all of this. I do leave certain steps out, but this is just the basis of it. So now we're gonna save this as a template. So once you have this set up and you know this is the basis of how you're gonna start, you want every product to look like this when you bring in your stems, right? Okay, you can go and if you hit File and come on down to Save as Template, And now I don't actually have this saved as the template on here. I don't have any templates on this computer. You can go ahead and save this, and we'll call this the Rxbyn project starter. And boom. Okay, so now if I were to close this, right, close the project, don't save it, but I hit open and I go into my templates, I'm already in there. I can hit that, click OK, and boom, literally all that right there. And I didn't even realize it, but with the loop and everything, see, crazy. All this right here, the way we left it, right? Nice. And of course, you can always drop any questions or comments if you have any questions about anything, if something didn't make sense, if I went too fast on anything. That is something that I do tend to do, as I have been doing this for quite a while, and I'm always looking for ways to speed up my process and streamline it. But yes, now I want to give you 2 mistakes to avoid when using this template. The first is leaving this template the exact same. While I know I probably gave you some information that you didn't already have, that's great, and I'm always aiming to do that. For every song, every project is going to be different. Now, of course, you can have a couple of projects that do have the same template or do use all of these the exact same way, whatever, but experiment, see what works, take out some things, add some things, really go deep into the science of what's happening here and figure it out for yourself, what works best for you, because honestly, your sound is your sound. That's what makes you you. This is just giving you a more organized way to cultivate it. So that's one. Number 2 is using your signal faders versus your VCAs. If you are trying to affect how much of a sound goes into your effects. Sorry, that's my alarm. Somebody just asked me for a Paramore cover, and I love Paramore. But anyways, shout out to you if you see this. But yes, when wanting to control how much of a sound is inside of an effect, you want to use your signal fader, okay? And I want just a little bit less of that core sound in there. I'm gonna want to bring down my signal fader. We'll get all into that in the future, but VCA versus signal faders. I am not a guru. I am not somebody who has done any and everything, but I've had a lot of experience with the tools that I've been given, with Logic being one of the main ones. And I do urge you to play around and do what works for you. But anyways, that's all for a different day. Now that you know how to set up your Logic projects for professional mixes, you need to know how to mix using this project template for the professional mixes. So that's what we're going to get into the next one. Bye.